I really like that. So I suppose the first question, we'll let you get sorted.
Sorry, I'm just...
That's all right.
More from the business side or the actual product that we make? It doesn't matter.
Whatever
Whatever
successful.
tangent we get off on.
That's
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
So the first question are, I was going to ask who is Bill Oyster, but who are the oysters?
Yeah.
I'm Bill Oyster, and this
I'm
is
Shannen
Shannon,
Oyster.
and we are Oyster Bamboo fly rods. So we make custom bamboo fly rods, and we also teach people to make the old traditional style rods from start to finish.
They say founders now, but we were just a husband and wife that he makes beautiful things. I have a big mouth. And it worked.
It does work.
We're a team.
Yes.
And how did it all get going?
It's going good. It's going good. We are a 20-year overnight success story. So
25, baby. This is 25.
Yeah, 25 now. So yeah, now we're covered up. We're busy, but long road to get here.
Yeah, and how did that road start for you guys?
It started as a hobby. It was not a business intention. There's a lot better businesses you could get into, but for me, it was lifestyle. Fly fishing was my passion, and I was doing other things at the time, and then all of a sudden needed a job. And this was only other thing that I knew really was fly fishing, and I was just heavy into it, and it just kind of started to grow naturally, and we just let it grow naturally since then. Just kind of follow the direction it wanted to take us.
And when you were heavily into fly fishing, were you heavily into making your own rods at the time, or did that come when you knew it had to be a business?
No, it came last really, because the bamboo fly rods, they're pretty expensive, and they're learning how to make them was not something that was easy to do when I started, because it was only a handful of guys still doing it. It hadn't been popular since the 1960s. And fiberglass and graphite came along. It was faster, cheaper, quicker, easier, like everybody tends to want. And so but I just love the romance of the old style. It's a handmade thing, a wooden thing, and I just loved that aspect of it. But I also didn't have any money or any way to afford anything like that, and but they were always on my mind. And so I was big into fly fishing. I was guiding. I was teaching fly tying lessons, fly casting lessons, just being around it as much as I could. All the while I was a professional bike racer at the time, and then so I've always had strange low-paying jobs. Wasn't a big thing, but also passion jobs is the only thing I knew how to do. So I had a bad accident, and that ended prematurely my bike racing days, and so all of a sudden I needed something else, and that was my other passion, was fly fishing. And when I found the rods, it just really started to flow from there.
It's amazing.
And how about you, Shannon? How about it turning it into a business? Because it seems like, Bill, you're very clearly the craftsman. As far as we can see, I'm sure you're as much of a businessman as well, but you, from the very short time we've met you here, you seem to be a force of nature when it comes to making this a business. Really impressed.
Yeah, it was. I would say I like business. Like, I'm a little bit of a business geek, but not in the money sense. Like, I'm really curious about how to make something work in that respect. So I've always been curious about business. I was raised by entrepreneurs. My parents were both business owners, and I would say my focus wasn't even necessarily I would, of course, wanted to make this. I imagined this. I did. Like, we were, the first year that we were, that he was making rods, I was stomping around while he was getting hung up on. There was no internet, and he would call other makers in the Northeast, and they would hang up on him. So that's a very guarded art. And of course, I just egged me on even more. And I said, one day, everyone's going to know our rods. Jimmy Carter's going to buy our rods. All the Georgia guys, I would say that. And Bill would just be like, okay. And he just kept making these.
I thought she was crazy. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, and he thought I was crazy when I started raising the prices, because we were earning those. I mean, we started low. We didn't just go right out of the gate and go with the average price of a collectible bamboo fly rod. We started at beginner rates. And as we grew, my obsession with the business grew, and I'm good at marketing, but only if I love something.
Yeah.
So, and really if you take it from the lowest common denominator for me was us being together. You know, I wanted to be together. I wanted to do something together. You know, we grew up in the 80s where everyone worked in a cubicle, you know, and everyone thought we didn't have a job. You know, they thought if you were at home, then you were unemployed.
How many times did you get asked, how are you going to make money out of that?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Is that not the single most infuriating question on
What
the
about when
planet?
they try and figure out what you make?
Yeah.
Right? Like Bill would say, because I grew up in Bougieville and he grew up in very rural areas where their first question isn't about money. So when we've been married 30 years, and so when we would first start having to do the things where you do when you're 20, you know, and your parents' friends, and they would just start needling him and trying to figure out how much money we made. And he would say, Bill would come back to me and say, did that guy just try and figure out what kind of money I make?
Yeah, they'd
and
say,
I was like,
what do you do? And I'd say, I make fly rods. And they'd be like, oh, that's cool. How much do they cost? And I'd tell them. And then, how many of those a week do you make? And then it's like you see them sitting there doing the math, trying to decide if you're worth talking to
You
or
can hear
not.
the clunky gears
Yeah,
going.
Yeah, right? So
and it was never
really
about
weird.
that. It was always, if we could, whatever we made, we lived on sort of thing. But Bill is in the business realm, the macro thinker, I would say. Like his ideas have pushed us gotten us very uncomfortable, you know, and every one of his ideas is big. And then I do the minutia,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, I
so
like
he's
it.
like, let's build a building and, you know, have rooms. And I'm like, you know, so, and, you know, so he's the bigger thinker. And then I really do have like the idea of the minutia. And clearly I'm I don't want to overuse the word, but I'm extremely passionate about it. I want to be together. I knew we'd have children. We raised our children here. So it was more important to me to be together than anything.
Oh yeah.
Bill, you might have it sussed here.
Yeah.
You get to dream, and your wife gets to make it happen.
That's right.
That's
You just come up
amazing.
with the ideas and pass it on.
We're
to Shannen,
we're
so-
renovating our house, and Kate does the dreaming, and I need to cut the two before to make it happen. That's awesome.
And in that way, it happens too. Like he does I mean, we have such an equal partnership. Like it's really interesting.
Very yin and yang. So where I end, she begins, and vice versa. So
That's great.
We're never competing with our ideas. We're so separate, and even our what we think is important or has happened, we're so different, but we end up covering all the bases that way. You know? So rather than just fighting each other on them,
Yeah.
you know, we just
work
pick
together.
up
Yeah.
the pieces. So.
That's good. And was it always like that? Like from the minute you set go, it was you were going to support it fully. You had the
I
you
think
had the
so.
dream in there.
Yeah, there was like no, now it's going to happen kind of thing. It just was very organic.
Right.
Yeah, it happened slow, and when it was first, I was just getting into it. You know, it was like my hobby and my interest. You know, and then as it started to grow, I realized it could turn into something, and I knew if I could just get it to the point that I could get Shannen involved with it, then we'd be unstoppable. Because she had another job at the time also, her family's business and stuff, and, which she was super good at but didn't enjoy at all.
Right.
I had a great business, but it was just, you know, budding. It was brand new and trying to make it work. So I knew if I could just get it big enough that we could take the chance on putting all of our eggs into that one basket, then we would be fully committed and failure was no longer an option. So
Scary thing though, isn't it? Putting all the eggs in one basket.
We did, and it all came to a culmination by when we had our children and the recession. I mean, we've been through 3 economic crises, and so you don't have an option.
We made our first big financial move when we moved up here, moved Shannen out of her business, put all of our eggs into this business, and small business loan, big small business loan.
Which means that's personally guaranteed, by the way. Like it's
Okay.
like,
yeah, no.
Okay.
No, if you fail, and
They
like
take-
86% of them do,
Yeah.
they take everything
And a kidney.
that
That's
you have
scary.
associated
yeah,
with
yeah,
you.
and an organ.
Yeah,
you
if
know,
they can
like-
cut it out and you're still breathing, they're having it.
Yep. And when the day we went to sign on the dotted line at the bank was the day the stock market crashed.
Lehman's fell. Mhm.
Yep.
And I found I was pregnant that day.
Oh, my
And so we
goodness.
were signing, and the attorneys like pushing the papers over and looking at the TV. And he even said, "Do y'all want to do this?" Because Lehman's fell.
People are like
Yeah.
jumping off of buildings on Wall Street and stuff, and
Bill
we're
just said-
signing our life away at the same moment, putting all our risk into this business. So, we just shut off the TV and got to work.
Yeah, don't
What did
listen
that?
to that.
Yeah. What did that do for you guys at that point? You know, somebody handing over a loan that you're guaranteed with flesh and blood.
We don't know it any other way. It had already been all of our flesh and blood, right? Our names on the company. It's not a car wash. So you can't just open an LLC like a lot of people will, and then open like a business that is supposed to be profitable, like a car wash, and walk away if it fails. Like, it's our name no matter what. So we already have our name, and we're already invested on so many levels that getting a loan that was personally guaranteed didn't even mean anything different than us if we were to manipulate it somewhere. I mean, we've guaranteed every loan personally.
It's the only way we like to do. We like to be in control of our own destiny, and we don't. A lot of people, they like the idea of an investor come in, give you a whole bunch of money, pay yourself, and then maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but no risk to you. But I think that's a great way to ensure that maybe you'll succeed. But when it all comes down on you and you're the one signing on the dotted line, you have to succeed. We didn't have any choice. Got pregnant with another child, and now we got 2 small children. The economy went bad.
I mean, it went bad.
This was our only option, and we made it work. You know, we did what we had to do, and we found a way to keep it going and growing.
We ended up in a book. Emory University is a big university in Atlanta, and a really prestigious one. And they called and they put us in a chapter of their book, their entrepreneur book called Oyster Bamboo Fly Rods, and it said during the recession how we thrived during the recession because of our clientele. But what they didn't see was the 20-hour days, 7 days a week. I mean, there was just we were scrambling, you know.
They kind of glamorize the fact, how well you've done, but actually there's a lot of work that's happening in the background.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what we are keen on doing, especially with your experience as a maker, has been like, it ain't all a polished Instagram story, guys. It's not all a polished Instagram account. Like, this is some real hard stuff.
Blood, sweat, and tears go into it.
If you do something that's so cool that other people will do it for free, just to try to do it, you have to do it so well and at such a professional level that people will pay you for it. You have to work twice as hard. If we'd have put the same energy into any normal business, we'd
be retired.
We'd be retired
and
right
we'd
now.
live 10 years longer.
But we would have never done
as much fun.
And we'd have a
Absolutely
pool.
not.
We'd have a heated pool.
You'd have a heated pool to drown out the fact you never followed your dream.
Exactly.
And then,
we'd be crying our tears into our heated pool.
But you know what we'd be doing is we'd be seeking out these sort of experiences, the ones that we give and create, and we'd be going to classes like our own. You know, like we would be
one of our clients.
And wondering what we did wrong.
But I'd rather be on this side. For us, there was no other option.
But how does that? There's a magnet on the back of it if you want to clip it under your shirt. It usually holds pretty
I don't
true.
know if is it?
Yeah, it is on. It is on.
Okay. I just keep hitting it. I'm sorry. I don't know if it's gonna. Oh, it's a magnet.
Pull it off and then run it up from the inside.
Oh man, I did not know that. Okay. All right. Okay, go ahead.
So, with the financial crash, like a lot of the makers we've talked to so far, on this trip they've been a bit older, but a lot of them have been a lot younger, and they've certainly not had a booming business in the financial crash, never mind a business in the financial crash. How did that work with having such a luxury item? Or at least what I would perceive as a luxury item.
It is.
Nobody
buys them because they have to.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a carton of milk or bread.
Right. It's not the sort of thing that you have to have, even when the economy's going bad. It's not like we're in the gas company or something like that. So, it's tough. And at that time, what really saved us or helped us get through, well, 2 things. A, we never stopped pushing forward. The slower it gets, the harder you have to do everything. You have to market twice as much. You have to get out there twice as much. You have to innovate twice as much. You have to compensate for the slower market. And the other thing is, at the time, we had built a waiting list. We had so much interest before it went down that we had a long list of orders and guys waiting on those to come, and we were able. That helped us see us through that stability of demand that we brought into it. Helped us see it through, which is why when it's good, you can't lay down either, because you know it's going to be bad again. It's just a matter of time. It always goes up and down. So
that seems like good advice.
Every decade, plan on it. It's been because there was 9/11, and then the financial crises, and then COVID. 3 very different events that created the same tension in global economics. So it's
just like a shutdown.
So you just. The third one, I have to say, COVID, we handled pretty well, even though it was, even though, because we were like, well,
But
this is our
because we had
third
done
time.
it before, we know how to fall back,
Yeah, yeah,
regroup, get tight, reduce all your expenditures, work twice as hard.
We didn't
and
take one day
survive
off.
it. Wait it out. You know?
We worked every single day through COVID. There was no binging Netflix. There was no boredom. There was no anything. We worked harder even than we were before.
No government check that allowed us not to work. We had our skeleton crew. We had like 4 of us, and we were like, well, if one of us goes, we're all going together. So, but we need each other because starving to death is also a bad way to go. So we had to work, and so we just showed up every day. We kept it tight and kept pushing forward.
Yeah, we have incredible employees.
Sounds like it. You do. They
The
grow
ones
with
we
the
met up
company.
there seemed...
Incredible. Like Paxton wasn't with us yet during COVID, but Riley's been with us since he was 19, and he's now 34 with a baby.
Wow.
Yeah, so people come here for lifestyle, and they
Yeah,
stay.
people
like,
change career 4 or 5 times in that time back home.
Yeah,
I'm probably in any normal job.
But you kind of keep, though, if you think about it, but you keep that interest from, like, Riley's been a fisherman from birth. I mean, clearly Bill has been a fisherman from birth. And so if you get in the industry or around the industry that's, like, wired in your DNA, you don't leave, especially if you're
Something
paying your
you love
bills
and you
traveling
find a
the
way
world,
in, you hang on to it.
Right, yeah. So we just all clung to each other. Remember COVID? We were all going to die. So it felt that way for a long time, that we said, that's what we said. And then I started working down here at the time because we just left him vulnerable upstairs, and so the kids and I just kind of stayed down here. And we're like, okay, so we just managed through that. But it was less scary. COVID was less scary for us than most because we're like, here it goes again. Here again. It'll go again and again and again. So it was our third rodeo.
Do you view this as a job?
Well, it is a job. You can turn anything, no matter how passionate you are about it. If you doesn't feel like a job at some point, you're probably not making money. Because a lot of people will get into this. A lot of our business, the fly rods, it's a really cool thing. If you're into fly fishing, they love it, and a lot of guys want to do it, right? But at 3 o'clock in the morning, the reason we don't worry about them is because at 3 o'clock in the morning they go to bed. And if we've got work to do, we'll stay up and do the work, So probably when it starts to feel like a job is when you're getting ahead of the people who think it's just fun and games all the time.
Okay.
Those are the ones that don't make it. So it is a job, but it's also a lifestyle and a passion. But it's easy to have it as a lifestyle and a passion. If you can't accept it as a job also, you're not going to get very far because sometimes it's going to feel like a job and you just have to continue to go even when it's not just fun and games,
Yeah, okay. Do you view it on the same ilk?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What he said.
Yeah, no, really. It always, I do the paperwork, which is super not sexy, and the marketing, which is moving at the speed of light. Because when we started this business, the word brand, people didn't say brand, it was like, we're going to use these colors, and call ourselves this, and so there's this whole other language and culture around making a brand. And we didn't even really realize what we were doing. It just, again, happened organically. We were purposeful and intentional, very intentional about everything that we did, even before the word intention became a thing, you know. But so my job does feel like a job, perhaps more than his does sometimes, only because I'm just down here just grinding. But his is so physically demanding. And so much more pressure is put on him because there's one thing, because I'm down here grinding, right? Doing the paperwork, and it's not sexy and it can get really boring, and but then, and his is super sexy because everybody wants to see him and he's so talented and he's got all this going on. So I feel like it evens out because he's got more pressure on him, like his stuff's out there. My stuff, I could just be like, I outsourced that and that was a terrible idea, but his is like, he has more pressure. So we both, so that's probably, it feels like a job when there's pressure. There you go.
Yeah.
And he's a natural introvert. And so doing anything, which is most of his job, is out, like exhausts him kind of thing. So I would say the pressure, he gets more pressure than me. So that's feels like a job sometimes.
Yeah.
But it feels like a hell of a job.
Feels like a
I
job,
wouldn't do.
Yeah.
Would not do anything different. I fire myself, for the record, every January, and then I hire myself back. Like for 25 years running, because January, so every January I'm like, I quit. And then every January, about 3 days later, I hire myself back.
So
Nice.
we all go up to Home Depot and get applications.
Oh, I'm just like, I can't, but but I wouldn't do, literally, we wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it any different. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I would rather have a passion, business, and lifestyle that sometimes feels like a job than a job that feels like your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that.
So I would rather work
Sound
twice
bite
as
that.
hard.
Clip that out and post it all over the internet, eh? Bill's words of wisdom.
It's true.
That's
though. I'd rather do this twice as hard than a regular job, and then just try to enjoy myself on the weekends.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everybody in this business likes being here. Like nobody
That's
comes
so
in with the
good,
frown on their face. We're all friends. We hang out together. We do stuff together. In fact, we have to limit that sometimes when we're like, we have to have a life outside of one another, everybody.
Yeah.
So you can't come and hang out here on your day off and drink our free beer all the time. No, it's good.
Good. And you've mentioned marketing a few times. How do you go about marketing yourselves?
So in the beginning, which won't even compute with most people probably listening to this, in the beginning, it was trade shows. Well, first of all, that was the only way we got in front of people. So we had to get into a car and take everything, to get in front of people. And we would make flyers. There was no internet, and we couldn't afford a printer. So wherever the trade shows were, which were all over the country, there'd be a Kinko's. And do you know what Kinko's is? So it's a copy shop.
Right.
A copy shop. So you make copies at Kinko's. It's open 24 hours a day. And so we'd make just enough flyers, right? And those flyers would have our information on them that we could afford. And then I had an embosser to make it look fancy and make it look like a professional did it. It had our logo on it. And we'd sort of count how many flyers we needed for each, show. But the consistency with our logo was something that came naturally that a lot of people always have to we get sick of it, but that consistency with your logo, and then having the product being his work to back it up, that was the easy part, was the fact that I had him. So it's more or less just keep pushing and pushing and pushing in terms of getting in front of people with our logo, with our information. This is what we do, here we are, kind of thing. And he won't say how good he is, but I will. And I feel like we've had that advantage where some makers don't have a mouthpiece like me. And he knows.
It's hard to say about yourself, but if you have someone else helping promote you, that goes a long ways.
Yeah.
Because
And they'd ask me a technical question. I'm like, well, he can answer that. But then I can tell you how great he is. But then they ask me a technical question. I'll go, well, you have to ask him. I'm like, but I know it's really great because they're super pretty. And everybody, they just do this and they this, So I only knew the basics. I've made rods now, and for fun a few times, but so technically by osmosis I've picked up on the technical details, but marketing is constantly changing. It was way slower for the first before social came out. Social changed the game. Our clients are different. Our clients are a little bit older. They are coming up in age, so I've had to be really careful not to combine the two as well, not to insult our older people with younger kind of brash, silly stuff, but then still interest the younger people to stay relevant.
It's good balance.
That is walking on a a balance beam, really. Because you can completely alienate one or the other, but we need both.
It's good that you think about that.
We need both.
That,
and we do physical mail outs. I mean, that's our secret sauce is
You're spending the time though to send someone something physical.
We do physical mail outs to our clientele.
Because on the internet, you're competing with everything in the world. But when you have something in your hand and they'll tack it up on the fridge and then 2 years later, a special occasion will come up and they'll remember that and it'll become a gift or something.
Bill built our first website 22 years ago, which was one of Yahoo's very first e-commerce sites that was software based. And then I kind of took it over, and then we did another one.
I had no idea how to do anything like that. No experience. But I had 8 days that I dedicated to it.
Nice.
And I went all day and night until I got it done.
And we are just now, by the way, hiring a developer. Right now, I signed the contract yesterday to completely rebuild our website. So I've always done it, and then one locked up, and it's gotten to the point where we can't afford not to hire a website developer. But if someone is a startup, right? That wasn't even a word. First thing you do is you borrow money, get a website. I mean, it makes sense. You do all these things, right? So we just were like, okay, we have $1. So we have $1. We're going to make some flyers. We're going to put trade shows on our credit cards. We're going to get in front of people. We're going to see what we can do. And the trade shows showed us better than anything that we have something. Like we've got something, So
you get a lot of feedback that way from
we
trade
got
shows.
Great feedback. And we would always sell out of our rods at every trade show. There was always, and it lifted us up, and then we listened to our clients. Like people started asking Bill how they could make them, right? So that's the way the classes came about. Then people asked for engraving. That's how the engraving came about. Everything was a client ask. We just listened to our clients.
So trade shows were super important for you.
They were.
They were, and there was another aspect of it that still to this day we take advantage of as much as we can, but in the beginning for sure, and that is take every opportunity for exposure. So we would have, a big, New York Anglers Club in Manhattan, New York City. They'd invite us up to come, 5-course dinners, big fancy thing. You go to something like that. Maybe something comes from it, maybe it doesn't. Fly Fishing America TV show comes and they do a thing, maybe something, but maybe it doesn't. But then also when a little fishing club from 30 miles away with 8 members invites us to come and speak, we would go there and we would go and talk to those guys.
Right.
Sometimes that ended up with twice as much
really?
as
We don't
the others,
say no.
So and we found it's very hard to tell, some things that
you got to try them all, don't you?
You got to try them all. And sometimes the smaller, more intimate things, you make better connections with people that can be more lucrative than being on some worldwide TV show where everybody just sees you as entertainment but never thinks about you again,
Right, okay.
So where a lot of people that we know are like, well, you have to pay us if you want us to make an appearance or whatever. It's like, you have to call us. And if we can, we will show up, you know. So that's
we're
the
happy
way we've
to do
always
it. Like
done
we
it,
always
so.
want to share those who can should teach. They always say those who can, and then those who can't teach. We've always felt like those who can should teach.
If you can,
if you can,
and you can teach, then
you should teach. You should share because he got completely boxed out. In the beginning, nobody would talk to him about how to make a bamboo fly rod, and that was how classes started. He said, if I ever get apt at this, I'm going to teach people.
Well, people would ask me how to do what I do, and the only thing I knew how to say was what everybody said to me was, oh, that's proprietary, I can't tell you, or whatever. And then I was like, man, that feels really bad.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like that. That made me feel bad when people did it to me. I'm not going to be that guy that does it to other people. There's got to be a better way. And now the classes are huge. And I had other makers, rod makers, literally call me, write me letters, tell me I was going to put all of us out of business in 2 years if I kept teaching classes.
Really?
And instead, we've seen a complete renaissance in rod making. Like, it's way more popular now than it was 20 years ago.
Good thing you don't listen to these
ago.
people. You just go ahead and do
No,
it.
that's like the worst thing you can say.
Never let your competition steer your business.
No, he is like, because we did, like we always just moved forward. Like everyone thinks faster, cheaper. Like that's, and everyone zigs that way. Like that's just the natural tendency for things. And because that will make more money or whatever the case is. And our clientele, we have some of the most brilliant people come through these classes and they are very successful business people. And they're always saying how we can make more money in our business. And very often we want to say, if was our number one priority, we would have done that and we would do that. It's not that we don't want to make money. We do. We make money, we pay our bills. But that's not our number one goal is to make money, So it's, I don't want to sound righteous, but there's like a little more, it's more virtuous. Like our motivation is a little more, if it were just about money, it'd be even more exhausting.
Do you think that comes from the fact your name's over the door?
Oh, 100%, and we never thought about it any other way. We both take things really personally, everyone says it's just business. It's not, like it's all personal. There is no line between personal and business. That's like just some bullshittery that was just like someone came up with. I don't know. I can't even imagine.
To excuse themselves for their bad actions.
Maybe it happened at church. I don't know. I'm gonna guess. Somebody said like, oh, this is business and this is personal. No, it's all personal. So and I think what our clients have figured out about us, and we just ignorantly did, was we were always ourselves. You know, we didn't have to put on the suit and fake and climb and that kind of thing. So I think everyone can relate to if you're authentic, you know, and another one of those words that I've been using since before it was a thing. But we were always ourselves, and everyone can relate to that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, you can feel it, you know, so you can feel the energy in the room if someone's like uncomfortable or, you know, so I think that's been our greatest strength too, is that people feel they're relaxed around us. You know, they have an impression and then they come and they're like, oh, okay. They're just doing their thing, you know?
Just normal people.
Yeah, I got that impression as soon as I walked through the door. I was like, this is a proper family-run business.
What was it, me stumbling up the sidewalk out of breath?
Well, that was kind of half of it, wasn't it? Like when you
with
see
a do-rag in my hair offering you a beer, you know?
when you see someone that's just flat out, you're like, this is someone that really cares.
Oh gosh,
Really,
and, like,
really
and
cares.
so much, you
Yeah.
know, and so much, like so much that it can actually work against you as well. Like it's been hard to delegate myself. I'm like such a control freak. He's so much better at saying, you do this, and I'm like, I say, you do this, but no, give it back to me. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So,
Should we shift that camera around a touch because I'm worried you're a little bit out of shot. But what would you say to, you know, there's obviously a cost associated to going to all of these events for makers that maybe don't have that money. Is it a case of just make it happen?
well, Bill has the best, what he says all the time, bet on ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, we go into debt. We've gone
That's
into
it.
massive debt, like, and it's good debt. Oh yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, we didn't build our multiple shops or buildings or attend these because we had the extra money to do it.
Yep.
It's because you sit down and you look at, and you just have to put a pen to paper sometimes. And that's what we did. Sometimes it looks impossible or sounds impossible. And then you look at it and realize that it's not. And a good example of that. Oops, sorry.
Break the place.
Sorry, on you go.
It would just be a memory. remember the guy from Scotland that dropped the fireplace?
Sorry, on you go. On your same, Bill.
But like she said, you have to bet on yourself, and even sometimes people will say, "Well, I can't go to that show because I don't have the money to attend that show. I can't hire an employee because I don't have the extra money to hire the employee." We ran into these same things. I can't build my own business, my own workshop or building because I don't have the money. Each one of those times we ran into all of those situations. If you just sit down with simple math and a pen and paper, sometimes you realize you can't afford not to.
Right.
You know, we realized we hired our first employee outside of the family. Yes, they're going to cost this much, but we can get that much work, and they're costing this much, but they're earning us this much. How do we ever afford not to have an employee doing that? You know, how I can't afford to do all of that we're going to have them doing. Or when we built our building, we were renting a building up the street, and
It was in the middle of the financial downturn also.
right,
So,
and we're dealing with the landlord and just the difficulties with that, and the building sold while we were in it, and finally we're like, we need control of our own space, and a lot of people would think right off, we can't afford our own space, especially now. But when we sat down, we looked at it, like we've got the upstairs, we're renting rooms to our students. Right off the bat, that pays for itself. We rented in between classes. Now we're making profit.
Yeah.
The main level, that's already going to cost what we're already paying to rent a place. So that's a wash. And then we had a third story down below, which we could rent out at the time. We rented out to another business.
she's a maker.
Yeah.
Like she's
And that
here.
paid for itself. So now instead of throwing away rent, we owned it. We had it exactly the way we wanted. It's beautiful, and it actually ended up costing us less than just renting a business up the street and thinking you can't afford to have something nice for yourself.
I made him do that math for me like 78 times. You know, so I was like, how can that be possible? How can that be? You know, it's like that's what I mean. Like he's the thinker, you know, the bigger, like he would say, and look, Shannen, look, this can happen, and then it's then we're off to the races.
Yeah.
And they were giving money away because it was during the financial crises where there was nobody, like it was just at a complete
Nobody was taking
standstill.
loans, yeah.
So we took a huge risk, and because we already had the other risks sitting there, we paid like 3 different risks at the same time with all our own money. and had to buy the fly shop next door because it went out of business, and so
it hadn't made money in 9 years, and we had it profitable in 6 months.
Wow.
Then
The
ran
fly
it
shop next
profitably
door.
for 2
Yeah.
years. We sold it, big fat check, put that money towards this business after that.
Good on
So,
you, yeah.
so you take the risks, but they have to be smart risks, and that's why you have to get out the pen and the paper and look at. Don't just immediately say I can't do it or I don't have the money to do it. Or
I'm
just
tired.
immediately say, oh, I have the money, I'm going to spend it, and make sure that it makes sense first, and then, come up with the plan and see the plan through. And it's amazing how basic some of these business things can be, and people just don't do the basic things. They just, they either just waste money or they're just afraid to use money to make more money, which you can't be if you're going to be an entrepreneur.
And we didn't have any footprint. There was no book on how to make bamboo fly rods for a living. We just sort of went through it and had to come up, and which I think was a huge advantage. Because if you follow someone else's formula, you're just like kind of reading what they did, and or what the world thinks you should do. And if we followed anybody's advice, we'd be working for a major corporation right now, not us. Like everybody's advice was, that's a bad idea. So we just kind of made it up as we went along.
Have you all... Now this has got a bit of a negative connotation, and it's not negative, but it's kind of the way everyone seems to want to go. Have you always been quite happy to take risks, or have you just been super confident in your own abilities? And I say the negative connotation because everyone seems to talk at the moment about, if you're taking risky stuff's not good. But like, have you guys always just been happy to take risk, or do you see it as a risk? Because you seem to just believe in what you can do. You very clearly, Shannen, believe in Bill, and Bill, you very clearly
so
believe
much,
in you.
like so much. And Riley, our employee, said it right the other day. That we are very comfortable being uncomfortable.
Oh, okay, I like that.
Naturally, or is that something that happened because of the business?
I think naturally.
Well, I think we started young enough, and we had nothing to lose, so it wasn't a big risk. It's like we're broke, so what's worse
So
than
if I
that?
make fly rods and then end up broke again,
Yeah,
at least I made some fly
I'm just
rods.
back where I started, except now I can go fishing. Right? So we find that to be successful as an entrepreneur, which is what any independent maker is, you can't just if you want to do that for a living, you also have to do business, unfortunately. So you have to think like that, and you have to get comfortable risking and betting on yourself. You have to take the risk. You have to always push. As soon as we make a little push, and if it doesn't work, we dismiss it and we try another thing.
Right.
If it does work, as soon as it settles in, we get instantly bored, and because we know you're either growing or you're dying. There's nothing ever stays the same ever. So you can never rest on your laurels. You always have to push forward. So if you ever get too comfortable, you're just waiting for a downturn then. Like you have to give another little push, make sure you're continually moving in the right direction, the direction you want to go. So you have to get comfortable with that little bit. But that little bit of adrenaline, it's what keeps you motivated, It keeps you going when if things were too easy and too safe, you would rest on your laurels, get bored, and somebody's going to come blasting past you.
Yeah.
I feel like we're aging out of that, though. Like, I feel like we're aging out of taking risks.
Yeah, especially when you're younger. When you're younger and you have nothing to lose, you should be taking every risk you can think of.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's just like investing or anything else. If you can afford the risk, you take it. If it's a good one,
Yeah.
But then hopefully it pays off, and then as you get older, and we're getting older, then you can settle down a little bit, pull back a little bit. You've got a better base under you, and you can take smaller, more careful risks that you are more confident in because you have the experience now to back you up.
Makes sense.
It's incredible. Y'all will, if you stay in this game, you will find a time that you'll see the worm turn. It's weird. It's like you feel like you're just fighting a battle, fighting, and then something clicks with, it might be age or the beard or whatever it is, where people all of a sudden start stop wishing you luck. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like that
okay.
was a big one for me. Like when people quit going, well, good luck with that. You know, like there really was. It was
What did it change to? Can we get a job?
Yes,
Exactly.
yes. Or you know, it was the overnight, 25-year overnight sort of sensation. And we are minute, and it's like we just fill a little tiny niche. We never think, like I'm shocked when anybody has heard of us, or I'm shocked when people buy a hat, because I know why they buy our rods. I know why they come to our classes, because I truly feel like we're the best. But you can buy a hat anywhere, right? So they buy our hat, and I just sit there in the showroom, and Bill's like, "Oh, geez, Shannen, do not get emotional about a hat sale." I'm like, "But
We're
they're
gonna
gonna
buy a
our
hat."
Yeah, I came in and I was
Oh,
like,
no, we
I'm
got
like,
bagged out. Yeah.
Buy my dad a hat.
Because you can like get a hat anywhere, right? So that to me is a greater compliment in a lot of ways than when someone buys a rod or takes a class, because that's really obvious. But you wear our hat, and I'm like,
You want to be associated with the feeling.
I totally
created.
understand.
Yeah, yeah.
Totally understand.
Yeah,
it's
it's,
got your
uh,
name on it, and they're supporting your name.
yeah, and they wear
They
it.
like
and
what
then-
you've done. They
Yes.
want to be part of that.
Yes,
Want to be
if they can't afford a
associated with it.
rod, but they can have a hat, and they can
And that's a
support you in some way.
community. Yeah, we've
Yes.
created this
Uh-huh.
community, and that's another one of those. You'll hear me just say that words. That's that we didn't even realize we were doing it. Like we have thousands of clients, and look, Tim, how you got? Tim knew of us.
Yeah.
I'm so personally intertwined with our clients. Like it's just it's all personal. It is all personal. Nothing is transactional.
yeah, who's your guy upstairs? 21 classes he's done.
John, yeah, he's
Yeah.
moving into our community that we live in. You know,
No way, he's
yeah,
moving here.
yeah. He
That's
came.
so
He
cute.
came out, and we've had several people come take the classes from all over the country and move to this area because of it. I mean, we can't even tell you how many have done that. But John's actually he's going to be our neighbor. You know, because
No
they came
way.
out for dinner one night at his 20th class. They came out for dinner, and he's like, "Where am I?" And we live in this this really cool eco community. And then before I knew it, he was like, "I'm moving here." And we were like, "All
so
right," you know.
amazing.
So
And he'd done it.
yeah, they did. He bought the land, and they're building their house, and yeah. So it's that's not an unusual thing, you know. So.
He's not even our most prolific. There's a woman upstairs who's is on her 22nd class this week with us. So 22 weeks of classes she spent here with us, and
then 9. Scott's taking his 9th.
Scott's on his 9th
They've
class.
given you 22 weeks of the year to come and build fly rods.
Well, over the years, because Kathy's done 22, John's done 21, Scott's done 9. So between them, there's 52 weeks. Is that math, or 42 weeks? Whatever my math.
52.
52, yeah.
Between 3 people, there's a
And just
year.
in this class, just in this class.
In this class
but,
alone,
but
there's
that
a
is
year
exceptional
they've
because
spent
we
here
have the
with
2.
us.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
People
so-
really believe in you guys, eh?
You know, they what it is, I think, with these classes especially, is they get to live like us for the week. They get to experience all the good parts of it. They don't just have to do the bad parts of it, you know.
Now, no one's
But,
down here.
Yeah. How many of them after a 24th class, you're like, you can come and do the
Yeah,
paperwork.
come on.
Or how are you with sales tax forms? But no, and they get to, and a lot of times these guys have been very successful in whatever they do.
Yeah.
But they've never made a thing with their hands.
Okay.
They have a whole career on the computer. It's virtual. They have lots of money, and they realize they've never actually put something together that's going to last with their fingers. You know, and they come here and they struggle. They feel incompetent. They get frustrated and upset, and then they make it.
Yeah, and then they turn it, and it's like,
turn
actually, I
it.
did
They
this.
see it start to come together, and it's like a feeling they haven't had since like summer camp when they were kids, you know, and which is pretty cool to see. And we had a guy who was a major businessman. He retired. He lived in New Orleans, Louisiana, and he had taken 10 classes with us. And once he retired, his wife said, "Pack your stuff. We're moving to Blue Ridge, Georgia." And he was like, "What?" And she's like, "That's the only time I've ever seen you happy is when you're in Blue Ridge." And he could do anything and go anywhere he wanted to. And so he packed up and moved, and now
He's
he
one of
lives
our
in
closest
town.
friends
So,
too.
yeah.
Like they're again, like when my son got into, our child got into UGA last night. Half the people I texted were originally clients of ours, you know, because they're all watching his life. They've all known him since he was born, you know, and so
Wow.
everyone's even invested in our children to a certain degree. And they were two of the people that I texted. I'm like, Cutter going to UGA. They all know, like what, you know,
Yeah.
so they know his life, you know. So and they're here for us. Yeah,
He
they
was
would.
3. He would walk around naked while the class was going on, just hang out with everybody, sit on the couch.
Yeah. So definitely. And so we're looking forward to the new generation, the baby boom that we just had, and let those kids grow up in the shop too. You know, and we.
Yeah,
don't-
you were saying a number of your employees
Yeah.
have just had kids.
Yeah, and we don't. And listen, we love it because we're like, yay, baby, take it back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, we had no, we didn't have any, we didn't have the luxury of not raising our children inside the shop. You know, I did want to be together. I have to say that. You know, that was my intention, but we also had to. Like we didn't have anyone else paying us. There was, you know, we didn't do daycare or anyone helping us in that way. So they were just eating razor blades under the work benches and crawling around and getting bamboo shavings.
Just normal to them. They don't think anything of it.
Yeah, they have no idea. Like once they get out into the world and people are going to say,
You did.
you what?
Yeah.
You did what?
You grew up what?
I was at a nursery.
Yeah, like what?
Right, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's like your
Daycare.
dad does what? You know, so because here it's like normal to them.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So they're going to come back and be like, do you know people's parents like just go to a building and
Yeah, so obviously you've had a bit of a technical issue. You've built a business that's been kind of synonymous with bringing up your kids and your family and stuff. But what about the actual product offering? Because we've talked loads about how you built your business and how you guys work together. And I don't want to talk extensively about it because anyone can Google you. Anyone can look at what you come up straight away. But what did that product offering look like when you first started?
So when I first started, it was all about just making the rod. It's the classic bamboo fly rod. It was invented in the United States, this style, in about 1840.
Okay.
And previous to that, in Europe, they were fishing wooden rods. Greenheart, Lancewood, yew, and they were primarily two-handed rods, heavier, longer. And then guys came to the U.S. and country completely overgrown, small brook trout streams, Appalachian mountain chain running from Maine to Georgia, the entire length of the East Coast. Oh. So they started looking for smaller, lighter rods, and the 6-strip split bamboo fly rod became the standard, and it was much lighter and more powerful than what they'd seen before. And then it grew from there, became the worldwide standard, but then was displaced by modern synthetic rods, fiberglass, graphite, boron, and all of this, lighter, faster, quicker, cheaper. And so it was just that throwback heritage, the style of the bamboo fly rod. And originally, because I didn't have any money, I couldn't even afford to do it as a hobby. I, saved for years just to get tools and equipment, and I was just doing it for fun. I thought it would be great to do a less expensive version because I couldn't afford it at the time, and that was kind of my interest. But then what I realized when I got into it was I just wasn't fast, and I couldn't tolerate mistakes or errors or things that I thought could be done better. And it was just not in my wheelhouse. It was not my strengths. What I could do was meticulous and fine work and do it maybe better than the other guys were doing it. So that by default, even though it wasn't where I intended to steer it, just started to become my niche. They started coming out nice. They were nicer than what we were seeing on the market, and people noticed. And so the demand started to increase, and in short order, I had a 4-year backlog of orders waiting on me. Yeah. And I was working 7 days a week and still not making a decent living, And that's when I realized, I have to be in business also. But they started very basic like that, and then because they started coming out nice, I started getting more and more requests for higher end features,
right.
Like the engraving, for example. Someone asked.
So you perfected the bamboo rod in its
right.
basic form
First, it had to function.
Yeah.
And I was a huge fly fisherman first. And I was very knowledgeable in that subject. So even though I didn't know the rods so much, I knew when I'd made a good one versus where I'd made a bad one.
Right.
Maybe I made as many bad ones as good ones in the beginning, but at least I knew the difference, and I could start to narrow it down and quickly more good ones and less bad ones. So, and then going with my strengths as to just my particular niche, which turned out to just be the the finer craftsmanship end of the scale. That was just my natural fit. That was the only place I could compete, you know.
Right.
And so then the engraving came along, and we tried to outsource that because people wanted it, people liked it. But it was a constant problem, and the same problem other rod makers find when they try to do that is you're bringing someone who doesn't know anything about what you're doing and trying to make them part of your business. And we'd wait, the rod would be done, the big party's the next week, and the rod's done, but I don't have the engraved hardware, and then I get it and it's upside down because the
Right.
engraver didn't know a butt cap from a top hat.
Right.
So I decided I either have to just quit offering it or bring it in-house. And I was the guy with the art school background, so I sent myself to engraving school. And
Amazing.
not knowing if it would work or not, but
We didn't know. It was like a glass ceiling moment where I thought still, and now I've like gotten used to it after 30 years, kept thinking he'd hit like a glass ceiling, which was, impressive enough, right? And, and then he would just hit another one and another one. But I thought the engraving was, even I thought, well, here you go. We had a brand new baby at the time. He was our oldest, and he's like, I'm going to go learn to engrave. And, and I said, oh, okay.
Here's Bill getting excited again.
Yeah.
Here's
Yeah,
Bill dreaming.
right, exactly.
And there was a
And
big.
it's not like we had the money to run off and do this,
I was like, okay, babe.
And the engraver that we were working with, I had asked him about it. Do you ever teach? You're like, I love to make things.
Yeah.
You ever consider doing a class or teach me how to do this sort of thing? And he literally scoffed at me and he said, you can't teach just anyone to engrave.
Which is
And,
such
laughed at me.
motivation for Bill.
And,
Again, if there was like a theme, it's that people have continually told us we can't do it.
Yeah, that's how you know you're getting close to something. As soon as they start really coming at you hard, you know you're onto something. So so I went and fortunately I already had the demand for it, and I knew that was the only way it was going to work well. So we did, and fortunately it did work, and something I could do.
Yeah.
And then that became a huge part of our business.
A cool part about that also is that the Carter Center, President Carter's people ordered a rod, and we had to put him at the bottom of the list because Bill said, I'll learn to engrave in the time, because they wanted the presidential seal put on the rod.
I've seen pictures of that on your book.
Yes, and that was one of Bill's first engravings, actually.
Oh yeah, it's very embarrassing.
Yeah,
now
he
when I
hates
see
it now.
it,
He's
so.
like, oh my God. But he said, I want to do that. I'm going to do that. Like, I want to do that. So we did. We said, yeah, we can make you a rod. It's going to take 2 years. And he learned to engrave. It took us like a year to get the guts to take the class. He took the class, and he comes back and he fiddled enough, and that was a major motivation, at least because the Pentagon sends you papers that allows you to use the presidential seal. It's a big deal, and we knew from a marketing. You asked about marketing, like it's for Bill. I do a ton of stuff where he's like, we're doing what? Why are we doing that? But it was for us. I felt like it would help our pedigree as a bamboo fly rod maker, because there really is this whole subculture that we were trying to break into, and they were all doing this, and so we did that, right?
Yeah.
And so what was better than a president that was from the South? Because something that's not known also, our bamboo fly rods, are American, uniquely American, but the Northeast, all makers that were well respected come from the Northeast. So being from the South was another thing that we got laughed at. Again, they're like, you can't, like people in the South can't make things, and once you cross some invisible line, now you can make things better, but it has to do with this pedigree, so making those rods for President Carter, and it ended up being a long-lasting relationship, I think really was one of those turning points. And Bill wanted he wanted to make it. Me, I wanted to,
market it, brand it.
I wanted it to
Market it, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I wanted it to be part of our legacy, because I feel like we were building at that point an institution, and that was, a really great opportunity. It was one of those opportunities, and he sees it. It's funny because we have the same business, same experience, same everything, but he'll see something in a completely different capacity than me. I was like, oh yes, this is going to help so much, with our for a reason to believe kind of thing, So
you talked earlier about the worm kind of turning, and all of a sudden you're like, we've got this. Do you think that might have been the point?
No, we still don't have it. Like, I'm telling you, like, oh my
So
gosh.
you're telling us Mum's going to turn and you're like, I don't know when it is or what it looks like. But when it does, I'll text
That's
you.
what we've heard.
Yeah, but there's worms, like the worm, what, has 8 hearts or whatever? Oh, that's going to sound really stupid if it doesn't. But there's so many turns. Like, it was one of the worm turns.
Right.
It was one of our turning points. It was something, and you know, if you don't do something with it, it's still just, you're dead in the water, right? Well, people will say, well, you don't have to this anymore. You don't have to that. Yes, we do. Because if you don't, if you stop for 30 seconds, you are irrelevant. I mean, you are. It's
Especially now.
Oh yeah, I mean, even then, you know, it was something that I saw early on, and so and we don't do anything quickly. Like we really overthink everything. You know, anytime I underthink one marketing project, it falls dead. It falls flat. Yeah. And I'm glad that I actually have done that a few times, because people will tell me I overthink, or maybe you shouldn't spend all that time, or maybe, you know, and I'll put things out there and I'll like, oh, it falls flat, and it's because I didn't overthink it. So I'm an overthinker.
Doesn't seem to have faulted you though.
No, I mean, it's just the only way that we can do it. You know, there's a lot of storytelling, which came organically as well. That's another big marketing thing now. Yeah. But behind everything, I mean, these rods have a story. Like the phone call I take from the person who is buying the rod, like, they think that it's just a phone call, right? And then I tell them, I always say, listen, this just seems like a phone call, but I want you to fast forward 3 generations from now, because your rod will be in someone's hand in some river 3 generations from now. What do you want that rod to say? What do you want them to know about you? And that's where the custom engraving comes in. And that's when I hear the silence on the other end. They go, okay, all right, yeah, I get it. You know, okay, all right. Because that's really what it's about. You know,
you're building heirloom quality products.
Yes. It's
you're
not just
building it for you're going to enjoy it, but it's not just for you. You're going to put it in someone else's hands and someone else's hands, and it's going to say something about you. What message do you want to send to them?
That's so nice.
Yeah, I mean, how cool is it when you talk about your grandparents, your great-grandparents? I mean, you get these little pieces of you, or your neighbor that taught you to sew, or whatever the case is. There's little pieces of you that come from your elders or your ancestors, or however you want to, phrase it. And when you can relate to something like that, it's really special. So you're building the thing for hundreds of years from now. You really are. And So it's and it's just not about you. It's about the people that you touch and the people that you touch who they've touched. And so it's just really it already has a story. And we name our rods before they go out the door. It's the such and such rod. just so we can keep up. And it seems like it's just part of the process. But by the time it leaves, it's the such and such rod. You know what I mean? And there's a reason why every rod was built. I mean, no one just buys a bamboo fly rod because, it's just the next thing they buy in line. The things they buy. Yeah. There's always a story.
And how much did that motivate doing the classes? You're not only now selling an heirloom product, you're inviting people to build their own heirloom product. Is that what motivated the classes, or was that just another sensible decision?
The classes came from listening to our customers, first off. Most of our ideas is they will tell you what they're interested in, and they'll tell you with their pocketbooks a lot of times, because they can say anything they want. But what they'll actually pay for is what they really want. And with the classes, people come to us wanting to learn, just like I did. And I knew it was a cool thing to do. That's why I did it in the first place, And but what we quickly discovered was that feeling of accomplishment from coming in and doing it. It got to the point where if someone came and they were interested in buying a rod, and then they'd see we have classes and they'd get interested in that, I'd be like, I can make you the greatest rod you've ever seen in your life, and it will not compete with whatever you come and make for yourself. Having that full experience, and that's been massive. The class is sharing what you have. You keep it for yourself. You're putting up walls. You're holding people off, and the universe is gonna feel that. When you're bringing people in and saying welcome and show them and help them. One of my favorite quotes on that was, there's a guy named Lefty Cray, who's a big fly fishing, notorious guy in the U.S. who's passed away since. But when he first came up, he was he had all the skills, and he couldn't find a way to make a living. And his mentor told him, he said, look, Lefty, nobody cares how good you are. They want to know how good they can be. And he said right then he switched his whole model and he's became a legend as a result. Everybody wanted him to be amazing because he's the guy that taught them how amazing they are, you know?
Right.
And it was the same thing here. It was, you know, it's people go, great that you're so awesome at a thing, but if you can show them how awesome they can be, that really hits home, you know?
Yeah, it does.
The classes are even more sentimental, if that's possible, than the rods.
Yeah.
You
Do
know,
you guys think? Oh, sorry, on you.
Well, we have one grown person that cries on me every class.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and it's special.
Personal experience.
Do you guys think you've got customers, or do you think you've got a community around you?
Well, it's definitely a community. I mean, we're only open when the showroom, we're there working all the time, but the showroom's only open Fridays and Saturdays, and during classes also on Thursdays. And the reason is because our community comes in and we can't get any work done. They're not there to do business with us.
We
They're
can
there.
be talked out of working
Yeah.
really quick, you know, and then when our community leaves, you know, then we are 3 beers in and we still have to work. So,
So
we have to have our.
That's a bike shop problem as well. Having worked in bike shops all
Yeah.
my life,
Yes.
every cyclist wants to come in and talk to you about, have you seen this new thing? And,
Becomes
and
the
it's
hub.
cool, but
Yeah.
you're right.
We
At
have
some
to
point
work.
you need to draw a line on it.
Yeah,
That's cool.
for sure.
Yeah, there's no doubt that it's a community, and not done like purposefully. I mean, y'all have to
sounds all
understand
natural.
100%. This was
Absolutely.
not done like we didn't rub our hands together and go, "This is what we're gonna do." I mean, it just really has happened, like in just a natural, organic way.
Or if I could describe your pair in one word so far, it is authentic.
Yeah.
This
100%.
feels like the real deal. So we've talked loads and asked you loads of questions, but do you guys want to cover anything or talk about anything? Because I'm very conscious of your time. We're actually recording this in your open quotation, close quotation break
Yeah.
Yes.
in between a class as you got pulled off of doing some engravings.
Yeah, we'll be running back up and back at it again shortly. But
I don't know. I feel like we're reaching the point where we still like you have to stay relevant, but I feel like our next steps, because it feels like the last 5 years, everyone with COVID and everything has been just a big blur. But we went from 20 to 25 in the blink of an eye, our company, but we had our biggest growth years as well. But one of the things that I would like to get into, and this might be one of Bill's things where he's like, what are you doing? And then once we do it, it happens.
Yeah.
I would like to get into more of a giving, like in more, because we haven't, like charity starts at home. We are givers, but we don't like put our names on t-shirts and pound our chests and tell everybody like, you know, we do like I mean, even it's not giving unless you hurt. But I think our next steps are, we have some plans kind of in place to really start giving back to people who can't take our classes, can't buy our rods.
Amazing.
We have some benefactors that are looking to do that for us and with us.
Great.
And so that is like a dream. It's always been a dream of mine. I've applied for grant after grant after grant, but now I've just realized you can just go straight to your clients who say, I would love to do that for our vets or for somebody. I mean,
Nice.
specifically, I want to sort of focus on our vets. And I don't have anything completely concrete, but I feel like that's the direction we're going to go in. You know, as we grow.
Yeah, sounds brilliant.
As we,
that's probably the big change, the
what I want.
worm turn, when you go from just worrying about yourself all the time and the success of your business, and then seeing, okay, we're solid enough now, and what can we do with that business? What can we do to something good with that, you know?
And we've always tried, like we do,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, we try and try and try. And we do give, you know, our little community here, it's a small Appalachian town in Georgia, in the southeast of our country. This is the sexy street, East Main is, but outside of this street, it is a whole different story. Like it's like 40% of the county lives in poverty. So we've done a lot inside our small community. That's where we do the
Good for
charity starts at
you.
home.
Yeah,
But we
good for
want,
you
and that
guys.
is not tooting our horn kind of thing. The only reason I'm even saying this is we did win Georgia's Business of the Year in 2019. Like big deal. It was a huge deal. Like
That
small.
is tooting our horn.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know. Now, just that's a horn, like that, you know, just a train horn there. It was Small
Too
Business
right.
of the Year in 2019 for the state of Georgia.
for you guys.
And
Well
especially
done.
as minute as we are, and they say I bullied them into it. But, you know, what can you say? But that kind of, that one of the things they put on there, the application was filled out by other people. And then we sort of brushed it up and made changes. And what I noticed on there is they had our community involvement and the charity and stuff. And I never even thought of it like that. I was like, oh, wow, we have done that. And like, we never thought of it that way. But I know now that that's a huge thing as well. But we just naturally were doing that.
Just second nature to you guys.
Oh, well, and yeah, and just wanting to, like, just, it was just a thing, you know, it's just, yeah, you just, I mean, right down to the simple, like the simplest thing where people would bring their kids in that aren't going to go to college, where they're showing them how you can do things with your hands, or you can be in the outdoor industry. I mean, something as small as that to the much larger things like working with the Carter Center, you know. So that was the first time, 2019, was the first time I realized that we had so much community service under our belt, you know. So again, another thing, I guess that's really like a coined phrase now sort of thing. But now I want to do it for real. Like, I want to have the foundation. I really want to have something that not only do we leave this company to our employees, I want to leave a foundation that gives back. So that's what, and that will take time to build. So that was the only thing I would say that what I wanted to talk about was benevolence will be our next chapter, hopefully.
6 weeks.
Great.
I hope. Or we go broke and we just have to work harder. You know what I mean? Because anything can happen. You know what I mean? So,
And
you
you
know.
said this is your 25th year.
25. Yep.
That's,
Well done.
amazing.
We haven't even had time to like explain that too. Like, you know, so I haven't put it on, like, I think it's not on anything yet, but it will be.
Yeah, you said that as we walked in. You're like, oh, it's actually our 25th year this year. I'll need to work out how I'm going to tell people that.
Yes, yes.
And I was like, these guys know what they're doing.
But you know what
Because
I'm
they
going
ain't
to
telling people about it. They're just doing it.
what I'm going to do is like condense it in like an acute way. You know, a lot of people have these really cute, like interesting ways they celebrate these big anniversaries, but it's just like me trying to figure that out. So I think we'll do it in like a span with the films when you know, and the new website, and we'll do it like in a little condensed form, and then just get back to work.
Brilliant.
You know, so that's what we did with our 20th, right? You know, we had a party, told everyone, got back to work.
Nice.
So
I've got one more question. What advice would you give your younger self?
Our younger self? What advice would we give our younger self? You know, it's so hard. I guess it would be don't give up. If you really believe in it, but also don't pursue dead ends. If you're seeing that something is not working, it doesn't mean quit. It means adjust.
Right.
And never stop adjusting. Never stop pushing forward. If you want to succeed, if you want to do something with the passion that you love, and because if you can pull it off, it's the greatest way to live that I know of.
That's great.
mine would be from his mouth being not all bad things are bad. Like some of the worst things that have happened to us, stuff you wouldn't believe me if I told you, pushed us into the place we are now. I mean, it by all definitions.
That's
are
so
the
true.
worst things.
Yeah.
I mean, they were terrible, but they pushed us so hard, and nothing short of being shot at or a scorpion infestation would have put me there. You know, so and at the time it felt like the end of the world, but now as a 52-year-old having gone through that, when something bad happens, I really do reassess. Like, it's just your perception. I know everyone talks about that too, but it's just like your perception. Yeah, it is bad. It could be bad. There's bad things, but you can completely make those, if they're supposed to, turn those into your greatest growth experiences as a human, as a business, as a family, as friends, you know, as a community. You know, terrible things can make you so much better of a person. So
it's pretty good advice.
That's really good advice. From
And it seems like if there was anyone that had the credentials to give that advice, it'd be you guys. Guys, thank you so much for your time. I know how busy you are, and the fact that you took time out is a real honour.
good luck.
So
You
thank
guys
you.
are like really inspiring too. I love to see that there's like how great is it that you're this age, have this much under your belt, you've published these books, and you are in another country, you know, cover. I mean, this is phenomenal. Like, this is really
Good on you guys.
It's starting to feel like a thing, you know. I said to Tim and Tracy when we landed and we're talking to them,